A California jury has found Meta and YouTube liable in a landmark case accusing the tech giants of designing their platforms to be addictive and of harming a young woman's mental health as a result.
Joining us to talk about the impact this could have on our families is 9 News parenting expert Dr. Cheryl Ziegler, live on Zoom today. Glad to have you with us. Let's talk about the lawsuit, though. Can you explain to our viewers what happened?
Yes. This is what so many people are calling a bellwether moment. This is landmark, kind of like big tobacco. This was really big. So what happened was we had one young woman who claimed that because of these social media platforms, she developed depression, anxiety, body image issues, even some suicidal ideation. And in the past, these kinds of companies have either settled or they haven't gone very far because the claims have been around the content on the sites. This case was different and won because they were essentially saying this is about product design. So they were taking social media and they framed it more as the product, not the content. And so what they found throughout the trial was that the product team, the people making decisions behind this, were found to be people who knew that they were designing things that were addictive, particularly to young children, and that the younger they could get them hooked onto social media, the longer they would have them as customers. And so that was the incentive. And so this is really a huge moment in many ways because she actually won. They've been found guilty in California as well as New Mexico just in the last week.
Yeah, before it felt like there was a lot of gray area to kind of pin exactly the causes. And I'm happy to see this just personally as a parent. But Dr. Cheryl, why does this matter moving forward, in your opinion?
Well, I think for so many years, the emphasis has really been on, hey, parents, you need to control your kid. You don't want them on these sites, then you regulate them and you manage them or give them better screen time limits. And certainly, I have said that myself. I still do think there is a role for a parent, of course, because it is a product. However, it's sort of shifted. And now we say, oh, wait, these are huge tech giants that have all the means at their disposal and they knew what they were doing. This is not as simple as parents, this is your responsibility, not ours. I think there's a shared responsibility, and this is why this matters to families. It doesn't let parents off the hook. We still do need to regulate our kids using this product and using these platforms. And it's also a call for, just like big tobacco in some ways, right? Can they make some sizable changes, real things that matter so that this is less addictive to kids? So I think in this ruling, in some ways, from my perspective, we are now sharing in the burden versus just pointing fingers at parents and saying, do a better job.
I mean, forced accountability is accountability nonetheless, so I guess that we have to be grateful for that. But I am curious about your expert opinion on when is the right time. Reading The Anxious Generation right now, and the book has me never wanting to let my child on social media ever. But I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think is the right age?
So it's really interesting because a couple of years ago, the Surgeon General, our former Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy, said, 16 should be the entry point. And at the time, that seemed very idealistic. That's not realistic. How are we ever going to get there? And now, starting with Australia and other countries around the world, they're all kind of looking at around that age, around 16. Give kids brains and their whole identity just more time to unfold before sort of consuming this product the way, tobacco and, is 18 and alcohol is 21, make social media maybe 16 to give them more time. So, I think in that way, we don't have necessarily great research to say any certain age, but here's something I will say very clearly. The older, the better. So that means not just social media, but just having the devices themselves. So whether that's YouTube, remember, this is a Meta and a YouTube thing. So it's not just about Instagram. And so I think the more you can delay, it just gives the brain more time to develop. But I think really looking at age 16 is something that years ago I didn't think was possible. I think it's possible now.
All right, great advice, Dr. Ziegler. Thank you. We'll have a follow-up on this because I know that there's a lot more that we can talk about. But Thank you.
Thanks for having me.